Okay, well, thank you very much, Eric, and thank you all for taking the time out of your day to listen to this presentation about nurture campaigns. A little bit about my company is ActiveDEMAND or Jump Demand Inc. We're a technology provider for folks that are looking to really generate demand, improve conversion velocity, build brand advocates, and with our technology we help folks demonstrate marketing effectiveness through the adoption of technology. So today's presentation is really focusing on lead nurturing, and I've got a few things in store for you. I'm going to, of course, spend a bit of time with some definitions and sort of investigate why people are doing this type of marketing. And today's presentation is going to dive kind of deep into the technical details of nurture campaigns. And I'm going to try to, it's pretty hard to talk about this topic without getting into the nitty-gritty. And I'll talk about some of the challenges that are facing folks that are looking to do nurture campaigns. Then I'm going to actually give you a bunch of examples that I've created for you, and I'll show you how building a nurture campaign looks. And then once I've finished with the examples, I'm going to bring it back, do some best practices, and then we're going to finish it off with some questions. So I guess the first thing I'm going to do is define what is lead nurturing, and the reason I'm going to do this definition, even though everybody's here to learn about the anatomy of a nurture campaign, I think in exploring the definition it really talks a lot about, I guess it sort of positions the concepts quite well. So I guess what is lead nurturing? It is a dialogue, and it's important to understand this, is that it is a conversation between you and a prospect who is at a certain state in their investigation, buying process, even use of your product. So it's an automated dialogue between you and your organization and an individual. And it's important to understand this as a conversation. The reason being is if you're thinking about it as a conversation, you got to realize that there's two people in the conversation. And one is you want to be ensuring that the prospect who's on the receiving end of your conversation or your dialogue also has the opportunity to talk back. And also you got to make sure that the conversation is relevant to their current context and what they're trying to do. So it's important to not only understand that in lead nurturing that that there is this concept of a again, it's helping both people in the conversation achieve their objectives. It's both the marketer as well as the prospect who's in the process of this dialogue. And really, lead nurturing should be a win-win dialogue, and it shouldn't be one-sided. It can't be just you talking and the prospect listening. It's got to be the case that there is this engagement on both sides. So in the definition of lead nurturing, again, it is an automated process. It could be manual, but it would be a lot of effort. So really with an automated process, there's some starting conditions or a trigger event that brings this individual into the conversation. There's a set of assets and content that you, the marketer, are delivering to the other participant in the dialogue to help them achieve their goals. And typically with a nurture campaign, there is multiple touch points, and there's points you're going to be talking with them as they evolve through their investigation or buying process or use of your technology. And important with this this automation is timing. Sometimes you're going to be sending more, you're going to be communicating more, sometimes you're going to be communicating less, so they have time to digest the information, etc. And there's always going to be decisions that are asked of the prospect, and there's also decisions that you have to make based on their responses in the dialogue. And of course, there is, just like in any conversation, there's many ways that the participant could leave the conversation. So, and again, it is an automated process. So again, in the definition, something that's extremely important is that a nurture, by definition, should have objectives. It's not just to create noise. You're not just standing in front of somebody and talking. It's a case that it is a dialogue. So there's got to be marketing objectives. What are you trying to achieve as a marketer with this dialogue? And you have to understand what's in it for me from the client's perspective, so that you are providing value to the client during during this conversation. And something as well in lead nurturing, a good conversation is emotionally engaging. You know, it's a case that it isn't just facts and figures and poke here and do that. It is somehow trying to tap into the emotional aspects of the conversation. And really, what is the tools for this dialogue? Really, it's the things that are, you know, it isn't typically, again, because it's automated, we have to use tools that are automating the process. So there is email is one of the obvious answers as far as what the communication for dialogue is. That's part of it, as well as landing pages for them, or surveys, or things that they can engage with, as well as social media or even their phone. Right? There's lots of things that'll that are used in the dialogue for this nurture campaign. So by definition, again, it's an automated dialogue, and there's lots of aspects to this conversation. The next question is why are we having the conversation? So really, there are one of the main reasons for engaging with a nurture conversation is to accelerate the buying process. And both, like, I know there's people from both who are focusing on business-to-business relationships or selling to businesses. There's other types of business dialogues that are business-to-consumer. And both of these have their unique rationale or reasoning for doing nurture campaigns or having this nurture dialogue. And from B2B, and I think, and B2C, both of them, the accelerating the buying process is clearly why. One of a very good reason. There's many other reasons, and I'll talk about them. But on the B2B side, one of the typically people are engaging with nurture campaigns to get better quality leads, right? It's really to ensure that when you have a sales ready lead and it's delivered to your sales organization, it is somebody who is already, you know, already understands your brand, understands the offering, understands, you know, who you are, because really it's a case that the marketing process has had a conversation with this person throughout their investigation. And higher qualified leads, not just lead quality, but the qualification, because really, if they've been nurtured properly, when they come out the other end, they're very well educated, they understand a lot about the buying process, and really the engagement with the salespeople is more of a project management exercise more than a, you know, a hard sell, so to speak. On the B2C side of things, it's really keeping the momentum during the purchase process. You know, it could be the case that it takes, like most B2C sales are quite short sales cycle per se, but again, it's to try to keep this engagement while they're doing the investigation, because even though folks today on the B2C side, the purchase decisions are quite, there's a shorter cycle during the actual buying process than a B2B. Let's face it, people are doing investigation, and you're using the nurture campaign to try to engage or help folks through this investigation process. Also with cart abandonment, is maybe they added some things to the cart and walked away. How do we actually engage with this person to get them to come back? Or if they're about to purchase something, how do we bring in, I guess, other elements of the to expand the sale? So, and really another reason for nurture campaigns is this dialogue process of marketing really has much better response rates than the spray and pray process, because really you're using some type of context for the dialogue, and hence you're personalizing the conversation, so your open rates are going to be much better, your click-through rates are going to be much better. So typically people are using nurture campaigns campaigns to, if they're going to be communicating with somebody, that they might as well provide more value by a personalized conversation with the prospect. Another thing is that with online marketing, as we all know, is that anytime anybody does anything online today, it produces a digital signal. And with these digital signals, we are able to, they're like fingerprints, and every time somebody engages with something, it tells us, the marketer, more about the prospect. So with this data, we're better positioned to provide value in the conversation and also help people with their buying decisions. So again, it's another reason why we're doing nurture campaigns. And even though, even when we marketed this training session, one of the things we're talking about is, is it the case that it's about generating leads? Well, the reality is there's a lot of other reasons we're doing nurture campaigns, and one is client retention. Somebody's purchased from you. It is, the relationship isn't over. We can use nurturing to help people get more value out of their purchase. By delivering best practices and tips and tricks and tutorials or what have you about how to actually use the product. We can as well do nurturing to try to get feedback back from the clients. And again, if you're ignoring your clients, they're not going to be clients for long, is the reality, because your competition is going to be talking to them. And really, nurturing is a great way to get this conversation, continue the conversation after the sale, and try, you can use things like feedback and surveys, etc. And trying to, again, if people are having a positive experience with your product or service, then really we, as marketers, one of the biggest wins is to try to get them to share this experience with their networks, whether it's through reviews or just talking about your client, or even talking about your product or service, or sharing sharing your name or your contact information with somebody else who currently has the same problems that they came to you to solve. And interestingly enough, is that let's face it, in a perfect world, it'd be nice if everybody paid their bills on time. But let's face it, I think especially for B2B, accounts receivable is sometimes a reason to be nurturing folks as well. So there's more reasons than just lead generation and lead qualification. There is the after-sale relationship that is again a great candidate for nurturing your prospects. So it's all sounds nice, and there's lots of rationale for doing it, and there's lots of reasons for engaging with a nurture relationship. And I think, of course, that then why isn't everybody doing it and spending a lot of time and effort driving nurture campaigns? And it's because there's some very common challenges. So I guess the biggest challenge is quite often, where do I start? How do I do this? I know it's the right thing to do, and I know it's even if I have the technology to do it, what do I got to? Where do I start to do this? How do I get this nurture relationship going? Another challenge is in a conversation, especially an automated conversation like this, there's going to be assets and value you want to deliver as your part of the conversation. And so there's a bunch of effort required to get these assets together to actually put them in front of the prospect at the right time, etc. And really, the conversation itself is trying to get a engaging conversation with the client. It is challenging. It's not easy. It is the right thing again to do. But again, it's the case that it is a big getting some good engaging content is typically a challenge that everybody faces, especially unlimited wants, limited resources, or quite often faced with difficult choices. And finally, because it is an automated conversation, how do you remove that robot from the room? How do you make it feel like it is a dialogue? right? How do we get this feeling that it isn't just I'm customer or prospect 55599, whatever the number is, as opposed to no, they know who I am, and it is a conversation. So how do we get the AI to do the work, right? So definitely some challenges. So I'm gonna just tackle a couple of these, and then with some best practices at the end, hopefully attack a bunch more of the challenges. And the first challenge that I'm going to address is the where do I start? And I think that today, hopefully, you leave this training session with a better understanding of what nurture campaigns are and some of the rationale for doing it. But also, I want you to leave this session today with definitely some tools to get you going. And I guess starting point is a great tool to have in your tool belt. So I think that, like myself, when I'm thinking about nurture campaigns, the first thing that I do is I need to have the blueprint of the marketing and sales funnel well defined. Because at the end of the day, there is this buyer journey that is going on, and if I have no idea, or it is, if it's vague, it's the case that there's no way I'm going to be able to help my prospects through their process of their journey of purchasing or realizing value from the product. So what I'll typically do is put a framework or a blueprint for what the funnel is. And then I will look at the audience, because again, it's going to be a conversation. So really, I'll look at segmenting the travelers, if you will, by things like industry. What's their role, how big the company is, what is the product of interest that they're currently looking at or might be looking at. Again, so I will try to get these buckets and try to think about the conversations with one is where they are within the funnel, and two is who is the person that is actually at the specific segment. And then again, because it is an automated process, I'm going to be thinking about the trigger points, right? Like what is the point where that's the signal that I'm looking to capture that will say, yep, this person's ready for the conversation. Let's get the process moving. And really, as far as where to start, I say, think about this as it is an evolving process, and I'll talk about it in the best practices at the end of this presentation. Is start simple. It's a case that where think about one individual conversation, try to get the conversation right, get the feel for it, and then move on to expand the conversation and look at starting dialogues with different people based on your segmentation of your client base, or prospect base rather. So if I think about the funnel, and this is a representation of the marketing and sales funnel, and really it's if it's something the first time you're seeing this, it's funnel shaped because there's more people at the top than there are at the bottom, and the distance down the funnel represents people that are closer to that big arrow at the bottom, which is the purchase, and then there's the post-sale. And it's important to note that when I'm talking about nurture campaigns, this isn't the entire funnel. There's a funnel that's well above the top gray bar there, and it's the anonymous people that you haven't been able to remove their anonymity. And really, the anonymity needs to be gone for you to actually have a conversation. And if you're having a one-on-one conversation, the assumption is with this snapshot of the funnel is there's been at least one conversion, so you now know this person in some way. So it's not just an anonymous website visitor. This is, it is John Smith, and this person has done one thing. Maybe it's downloaded something, maybe it's called you, maybe it's something. You have the contact information and the ability to start a dialogue. You have some context as well. So if we think about this funnel, for example, and this is just an example of a business-to-business type funnel, and again, it's by business, every business is different, but just some example signals that could be entry points for a conversation. Maybe at the higher funnel, there's an ebook download. maybe more a little bit further down the funnel, there's a webinar attendance, and then maybe there is a true sales-ready lead that's been generated and it's now in sales hand, and then the sales organization has determined that there is an opportunity. They're working the opportunity. Finally, we get the sale. And it's a little bit different picture for the business to consumer because, again, the sales relationship it may be a little bit shorter, but there's still a funnel shape. And again, there's more people at the top than there are at the bottom. There's natural funnel attrition, etc. And really, like for example, in BDC, maybe a top signal would be a newsletter subscribe. Right? Maybe it was and then maybe another one would be maybe they downloaded a coupon, and then another one maybe they redeemed the coupon, and now they're in the evaluation stage and really haven't made a purchase yet. And then finally, there's the final sale where they've actually purchased the product. And of course, we have to understand that there is a post-sale aspect to the conversations as well. So when, again, wireframe the journey is the next step. So one is we've got this blueprint of our funnel and we have some understanding of where people can enter into the conversation and what are the types of things that will be signal to you, the marketer, that somebody is at a specific state. The next thing you want to do is sort of storyboard the storyline or the arc of what the conversation could be like and what are the paths that could be followed. And so really the first step in this wireframing of the buyer journey is to define some objectives for a specific segment. Then you're not going to tackle the entire funnel. You got to think about what is the state of the person at their specific position in the funnel, and of course what is what are their objectives, or what do you think that their objectives are at that state. And you, very important is you set what's in it for you, is what are the clear goals that you have for putting this effort into this type of marketing. So for example, maybe you want 10% of your ebook downloads to sign up for a trial, or maybe to attend a webinar, maybe or on the B2C side, maybe you want a 5% increase in the number of coupon registrants who actually redeem, or maybe a 10% increase of the coupon registrants who actually buy from you. So you need goals as a marketer when you're tackling a marketing initiative just like this, which is a nurture one. You should have these goals for anything you do because effort's expensive. And always, again, back to it, what are the goals for the prospect? What is the most important thing to this prospect that you can deliver at the specific point in the buyer journey? And then the next step is to, once you've defined these goals, you need to start collecting the relevant convertible assets and relevant for this conversation that you're going to have. So you need to have some value you're going to deliver to this person. And then you got to think about what are the entry conditions and what is that signal that you're going to capture that is going to get the conversation going, and what are the steps, the decisions that are going to be made in the steps would be the next thing to do. So if we think about back to our funnel picture, you know, again, there's multiple, not everybody starts at the top, and not everybody who starts at the top actually belongs at the top. They might actually be closer than you think. So really, if you think about it, people can enter anywhere along this marketing and sales funnel, right? So any of these areas is a good candidate for engaging with a nurture campaign. So if we think about the rationale for doing this, again, our job as marketers is to apply pressure to the population to move them towards the purchase decision, and then of course to apply pressure as marketers to keep this customer happy and engaged in becoming a true brand advocate. So again, if we look at the first entry point as an example, so somebody's entered at the top of the funnel, and really we investigate or we ask some questions in a nurture campaign, and the goal is one goal is to move them a little bit further down the funnel with our nurture campaign. Or, and don't forget this, is again, somebody could be entering at the top and be a lot closer to buying than you give them credit for. So you need to query and find out. And if they, in the nurture campaign, part of the dialogue that you find out that they're ready to buy, then it's really about accelerating. You don't want them to go through the multiple steps and walking through to all of this big long journey, this big long movie or a series of books to get to where, you know, I just want to buy. So again, part of the decisions is to you also think about this in the nurture campaigns is, you know, what are the exit points? If somebody's giving the signals that they're ready to buy, then your job is to, again, accelerate the buying process so you can move them along quite quickly. And then don't forget, after the sale, again, is a great opportunity for nurturing prospects, and I should say clients now. They're now changed from being a prospect to being a customer, and doing a nurture campaigns, there's lots of great value that can be extracted from that person who's you know, made the big leap of faith and bought your product or service, and now you can convert them into a brand advocate. And again, framing the journey, I think that it's important to, you know, if we've got we've collected a bunch of great data on this prospect before they entered into the conversation, then, you know, do behavioral targeting. Make sure that you're using the prospect's past digital signals to define the right content in the conversation. So instead of just assuming that they walk in the front door and we know nothing about them, if you're using a marketing automation platform, you have a lot of great data. Use that data to customize the conversation so that, again, you're providing this, you're removing this robotic feel. Personalize the content is another one, is instead of always having the nice, shiny, branded HTML emails that you're sending to the guy, you know, personalize it from their current account manager. Make it a personalized email as opposed to a flashy HTML email, and definitely give the prospect options to engage in the dialogue. Make sure that there is this conversation coming back. You're actually getting signals from this prospect and interpreting them and actually providing relevant content as a result of the signals. And then think about the exit plan. Is, you know, people are leaving your nurture campaign. Does it now enter them into another campaign, or what are you doing if they leave? So think about this in the wireframe of the journey. So I have a flow diagram here as an example. And it's sort of a generic example, but it sort of shows how, for example, you can wireframe a conversation. So the green dots along the top are entry points, and again, people can enter later in the conversation, and it's still going to be relevant. But think about each entry point and what are you doing with that prospect during the entry point. So, for example, let's say somebody follows you on Twitter, right? And so this is on the left here. So they follow you on Twitter, and if you have an automation platform, you can send them a direct message and say, yeah, thanks for following. By the way, we've got this great ebook if you're interested in it. And if they are, then you monitor to see if they've clicked the link. And if they haven't clicked the link, that means they probably weren't interested in that asset, or maybe they were, but just getting around to it. So you can either follow up with a second direct message with something a little bit different. I know you're shooting, you know, trying to get some type of a Twitter follow is not a lot of information, but you're trying to get this person engaged in a conversation. So a week later, you might actually try another direct message and say, hey, don't forget about the ebook. It's free, or here's another ebook, or think about a webinar, you know what I mean, or etc. So that they followed you for a reason. So it's good to engage with them to try to see why they followed and try to provide some value for that effort that they've given you. And if they actually do download the ebook, maybe it's a case you offer them 3 different segmented webcasts, because again, you know, if you have the data and you know what's right for them, you only have to offer one. But again, we're doing a little bit of fishing, and we're giving them the opportunity to talk with us and say what is of interest to them. So again, if they choose one, they move down the chain. If not, we wait a week. And if they open the email but it didn't follow through, then maybe you want to send them a personalized email from the CEO or somebody else that they might recognize, and see if that works. And if that works, again, you know, you move them down the process. And again, the webcast, you've offered them a webcast. maybe it's a case they've entered, so you can say maybe, again, we're trying to get this person to talk with us, and you can either do surveys or after the webcast, or how did you like it, or what was the best thing that you got from it, fill out this form or what have you, right? And if it's a case that you might actually, say you want a trial, right, is offer the trial. And if they open the email and they didn't go there, maybe again, try the personal approach and try a personalized dialogue. And if they did request the trial, again, send them a nice tutorial package and some tips and tricks and that type of stuff for how they can get the most out of the conversation. And then wait a week if they purchased. Maybe if they haven't purchased yet, warn about the impending end of the trial. Wait a month, and if they still haven't purchased, maybe offer them a discount. And it's a case that if they do actually buy, then maybe we fire them off to the advanced usage nurture campaign, and then as well fire them off to the review nurture to ensure that we're getting the feedback from the clients. So there's an example of a framework for a nurture campaign. And I'm going to give a concrete example here coming up here. Actually, the next couple of slides, I'll actually get into showing the process of building a nurture campaign. So with that, I'm going to get into the examples section. And again, after I'm going to show the product and show how I'm actually building a nurture campaign, and then I'm going to bring it back to do some slides that talk about some of the best practices, and then open this up for some questions at the end. So ActiveDEMAND, this is what the platform is where I'm going to be doing the example with. This is our marketing automation technology. And really what ActiveDEMAND is an entire tool belt for the marketer. It has email marketing baked in. It's got landing pages, social media posting, as well as native telephone integration, as well as great, exceptional analytics in the product, so you can really get the, you can get this data as far as what's working, what's not, etc. And really, as this whole conversation is about nurture campaigns, so on the right there, you see we actually do, of course, nurture campaigns, which I'll be showing you. So I'm going to get into this this demonstration, and the demonstration is it's a fictitious doors and window company. And we're going to start off with a standard campaign, and the standard campaign is a wide just to show you the difference between a nurture campaign and a mass campaign. And then we're going to get into a social nurture campaign, and then I'm going to get into a home improvement tips nurture, and then we're going to do a social review nurture, and then I'm going to actually show you an accounts receivable nurture at the end. So again, stick around to the end of this presentation, and I'll get into the best practices as well. So I'm just going to bring up the product, and hopefully you can see the screen. Excellent. So this is ActiveDEMAND, and the first screen when you log in is the dashboard, and the dashboard gives you a map view of some of the engagements that are going on, people opening emails, people visiting the website and clicking on links, achieving goals, this type of stuff. So it's a case that you can basically drill right into what the people are doing. And as well, some of the other things is the campaign overview, as you get to see what's being scheduled out and etc. So that's really it's a great product for visualizing as well as executing on your marketing campaign. So with vendor windows, what we're doing again is if we think about a window company, and this is selling to both commercial as well as end users or people who are home renovators, is that we're going to have several campaigns. The first campaign is to try to remove some anonymity from folks and engage with them as a result of the anonymity removed, and we're going to do a campaign which is a $25,000 giveaway for home renovations. And then we're going to do some social, we're going to do some nurturing to try to get these folks into actually making a purchase decision with the windows, and then we're going to follow up with some a campaign to try to get some testimonials and surveys, and then finally we're going to also look at an accounts receivable example that I talked about. So the campaigns, this is the first campaign, and it is actually an email campaign. So the email campaign will be sent to the contact database, and we'll have a whole list of folks that are already in their database, and it's a case that we'll send out a nice email saying, hey, we've got this home makeover, and we'll also do, we've scheduled up some social posts, so we're doing some tweets, we could do some LinkedIn posts as well, or even some Facebook posts talking about this $25,000 giveaway. And as well, we have our email that you see here that we're sending to our list, and as well some social media for the month. So again, the idea of this campaign, plus we'll do some Google ad buys, and the Google ad buys will help us again. We're trying to remove anonymity from folks as a part of this campaign, and we'll do some Facebook buys, and we'll also do some LinkedIn media buys. Maybe we'll put some ads on the back of buses. Who knows? So at the end of the day, the idea is to attract people and then remove their anonymity with a form submit, and the form submit will be on a landing page. And this is an ActiveDEMAND landing page that we built to try to get folks to, again, we want to remove their anonymity. And it's a case that so we have our landing page. If they fill out this form, it's a case that now they will be added to a nurture campaign, which will be to and I'll talk about that in the next slide, is a home improvement tips nurture. And also for the followers, if we have some folks that are following vendor windows during this time, is what we'll do is if they're a new follower, we're going to send a direct message to the prospect. Say, hey, thanks for following. By the way, we have this great initiative on the go, which is a $25,000 giveaway for your next home improvement project. So click here. And then we'll wait a week, and if it's a case that what you're seeing here is our workflow editor, and the workflow editor is basically you build the workflow, and this workflow is actually executed. So when we have a list here, when somebody follows vendor windows, it sends them this direct message, and then we wait a week. And in this week, what we'll do is, as soon as the week's over, we'll see if they actually entered into the sweepstakes. And if they didn't enter into the sweepstakes, again, what we'll do is maybe we'll send them another direct message, and the direct message will say, do not forget about our $25,000 $5,000 giveaway, right? And then put in a link, etc. And you can continue on, and if they do actually do the link click, we can actually, and this is actually we'll look at the click that just happened, and it says email, but it also is relevant for the Twitter message, and we can draw the wire, etc. So it's a case that we have control over this conversation. So we've taken a Twitter follow rather, and we've tried to again, even though we just have a Twitter handle, we're trying to convert that Twitter handle into an actual contact with an email address, etc. And that's really, we want people to get to this landing page to remove their anonymity. And then once they've actually given us the contact information, it's the case that now we're going to nurture again. And this is a home improvement tips. And really what we're going to do is we're going to provide value. And this is a very simple example. And again, in best practices, we would be a lot more engaging. But if you recall several slides ago, I said start simple. And this is, again, a real simple example to try to demonstrate what the process is. So we can check, and it's a case of really, and typically with a nurture campaign, there is an entry condition. And the previous nurture campaign, the entry condition was based on people who followed you on Twitter. And there's other ways, and basically the way ActiveDEMAND works is it's based on a contact list. And the contact list, you can add the person manually through a query, or it's through some state, because with a dynamic list, and once the criteria is met, they can be automatically sent into the nurture campaign. So this here really, it's a case that once we, this is monitoring folks that are part of the nurture, the sweepstakes participants. There might be some other people that have entered into this list as well. So we're going to wait a week, and it's a case that we're going to send our first home improvement tip email. And it's a case that once this email is really going to try to give them some type of value as far as what it is that we're where they are in this conversation. And just one second here. It's a case that there. Just have to sign in again. It's a case that we send them an email, and the email will provide them some information about improving their house or something like that. Because clearly they signed up for the $25,000 giveaway. It's the case that the assumption is that they're probably interested in some type of a home improvement tips. So this is an email, and really in the email we can customize it with specific links and etc. And we're getting the prospect to engage, and if they click on one of these links, it's the case that it is telling us something. And as well, we could go in and put in decisions and say, did they click the link? And if they clicked the link, then maybe what we want them to do is send them an email that then really sends them to possibly a survey. You can ask them about why they're, if they're interested here in energy savings, and they clicked on this energy savings and opened the link on it. Clearly they're interested in it. Maybe what we want to do is get a quick survey and ask them some questions, right? So maybe we want to build a little landing page here, and with this landing page we can construct a couple of questions about their energy projects, right? And so energy survey. And it's a case that if we have this energy survey, maybe it's again based on some of the answers they give me in this survey that again I can go turn around and use that data to again improve on, or I should say continue the conversation, because at the end of the day is what we're trying to do is get a personalized conversation. So as you see here, this landing page, it actually has their name on it. So when they open the landing page, it'll say, hey, start here, and then you fill out the details, and it'll have their information, and you can ask questions or whatever about their current energy needs. So once they've actually converted on the landing page and they purchased a window, now and again you can continue the dialogue with home improvement tips, etc. So it's a case that once they've completed this and they now become a customer, now the next part of the engagement comes where we're actually going to try to get a social media post out of them. So in this case, we're actually going to try to get if they're happy with the window, and this is post-value realization, if they're happy with the window, then what we really want them to do is to, share their excitement with friends. So again, we have our happy customers list that they've been added to. We wait a couple of days, and then we email the now customer, isn't a prospect, and we say have this nice email saying thanks for your purchase, and this is really important to us, is whether what you think about the purchase. And so what we're going to do is if they click the feedback, then what they're going to be doing is taken to, and I'll just take it here, is to this page. And again, my name is on the page because I sent them to this page, and it'll actually dynamically adjust based on the viewer. So again, and it'll fill out the forms so that they don't have to do it, and they can give us a little bit of information. And if it's a case that I'll go back to the actual nurture, and if it's a case that they don't fill out the form, we'll send them a personalized email. So if they fill out that form, they exit this campaign. So this one's a personalized one from the salesperson saying, hey, you know, we sent you this email and you didn't fill out the form. This is actually kind of important to us. We really care about customer value. And if they still don't fill out the form, we'll take a week later, one last ditch effort, and it'll be, hey, we're not going to bother you again. We value your input, so just go ahead and give us the 2 cents if it's something that is, if you have the time. And if they fill out this form, really what we're going to do is monitor the results of what they put in here. And it's a case that, and I'll just show you in the campaign right here, autoresponders. I'll just click in here. So this will be the autoresponder as a result of them filling out the form. And if they filled out the form and they give us a low star rating, we will email the prospect and say, hey, thanks for giving us your feedback. We really appreciate it. And if it's a case that they give us a high star rating, what we're going to do is send them an email that, again, thanks them, but captures their comments and gives them the opportunity to share this on social media. Because, again, we don't want them sharing a bad experience on social media. We do want them, only those folks that are getting a positive experience, to share their results. So, finally, the final nurture campaign that we're going to do is, of course, is the accounts receivable. So some people, maybe they didn't pay their bills, so we're going to nurture them to success. And with this, we're going to start off, so again, the entry condition on this is that they currently have not, they're overdue. So we're going to email them with a nice little email saying, hey, by the way, we see that your account is past due, and we'll wait a week and see if they open the email. And if they did open the email, then what we're going to do is see if they actually we'll make a decision here and see if they've got a if they have the account overdue, and I'll just use tags, and tag name equals, and I think we used here account overdue, and they were an account that was tagged as that. And if they open the email and it's still overdue, then we're going to email them again. And if it's a case that, and this is more of a personalized email saying, hey, from the account manager, guess what, it's your account is overdue. Now, if it's still overdue, guess what? We're going to call them. And we're just going to drag a call, and we're going to do a robocall. So we're going to actually phone them. And this phone call is going to say, your account is currently overdue. Please pay at your, et cetera, and or I could use a recording, and then basically I can send it like this and put another wait in here for a week, I should say, just so that I connect this with this, and then finally they get the call, and I can keep calling them, etc. So we've actually brought in phone calls as part of the nurture. So again, there's it's a case that we went through a bunch of examples, and hopefully it's given some type of indication of how nurture campaigns are built and how they're executed upon. And again, they're really simple examples, but I think we need to step back and look at, in the real world, what are the best practices. And I think that best practices are, consider the timing, and typically it's been shown that the frequency of communication is proportional to the funnel depth and also proportional to the emotional engagement level. And so if it's very early, you don't want to be communicating with high frequency. If they've been through the dialogue, they're emotionally engaged, you can increase the frequency of the communication. And really, again, you need to encourage your prospects to be a part of the dialogue. You know, fill out a survey, read more, share this type of stuff, and reply. You know, it's try to get the any email you send, give them an opportunity to engage. It's not just information. You want them to do something. Have a call to action. And really, it's about create, like I showed you, execute, measure, optimize, go back, execute, and do an iterative approach. Don't just fire and forget. You need to look at these conversations because, let's face it, steady state doesn't exist. It's a case that your company is changing, the buying patterns and habits of folks are changing. You're getting a lot more data as it progresses. So definitely engage with, even though it is an automated process, spend time to optimize it because there's tons of great value if it's done right. And speaking of value, always think about delivering value. What is the information that the prospect needs at the specific point in time to help them with a decision, you know? And I think as well, like I showed you, personalize it. Try to put people, your organization, not just the company, but a person from your organization in the dialogue. As well as think about the prospect as a person, right? And try to use behavioral content to try to customize the journey. If they're clicking on specific things or filling out surveys, try to use that data to again re-engage with the folks, and think about as well the emotional aspect of it. It isn't just data or information. You want to try to get folks excited, sad, whatever. You need to get emotional in the conversation. And use all kinds of assets, you know, visual assets like video infographics. Infographics are great. You know, it's a case that people can see it, and they can, captures a lot of data. I mean, a lot into a graphic or iconify a lot of information. So definitely use the visual tools as opposed to just text-heavy content. So that pretty much concludes this presentation. And if you're currently doing this stuff manually, try out ActiveDEMAND. There's a free trial for this where you can try out ActiveDEMAND, or we can look at a support session or what have you. But again, yeah, it's a case that hopefully throughout this presentation we've covered, and you have an understanding of nurture campaigns, the value of nurture campaigns, and the process of building a nurture campaign and framing it out, and also as well I followed it up with some best practices. So